Hey, welcome back to Azure Fun Bytes. My name's Jay Gordon. This time we're going to talk about Azure Key Vault, so let's get into it. Azure Key Vault is a cloud service for securely storing and accessing secrets. A secret is anything you want to tightly control access to, such as API keys, passwords, certificates, or cryptographic keys. Key Vault service supports two types of containers, vaults and managed SHM pools. Vaults support storing software and HSM-backed keys, secrets, and certificates. Managed SHM pools only support SHM-backed keys. To create a Key Vault, go ahead and go to All Services, head down to Security, and you'll find Key Vaults. Here, you can go ahead and start creating a Key Vault. You can click Add, and then you'll follow the template to create your new Key Vault. I'll give it a resource group, give it a name, select the region, the pricing tier, the different recovery options, set an access policy to the types of services I want to be able to control, use Vault access policy, set the correct user, allow the correct networking to allow you access, whether it's public or private endpoints. I can add tags if I want to have specific name and value pairs that enable me to organize my resources. And then finally, run validation and click create, and that'll start building our new Key Vault. For this and even more information about Azure Key Vault, why don't you go ahead and check this link. We'll see you next time. My name's Jay Gordon. Thanks for watching Azure Fun Bytes. Hey everybody. It's me, it's your buddy Jay. Welcome back to Azure Fun Bytes. It's another one of these, and we took last week off. A lot of people took last week off. That's just kind of the way the world is. But we're here, and I'm really glad to say that we're going to have another great opportunity to talk about ways that you can get started using Azure and learning something I think pretty cool. And we always have someone to help me kind of take the ride over there. And today, the ride is going to be helped by none other than Pierre Ron. I'm going to unmute you here. Hey, there you go. Hey, Pierre.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you very much for joining me today. I think we got a really cool subject because it hits something that's so important, I think, to everyone when we talk about building for the cloud and that security.
Well, I think it's a subject that's it's not really about being cloud native. It's about having good hygiene of your security posture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how, I know so many people, and you and I, because of our subscriptions, even our test subscriptions within Microsoft, we are constantly being monitored by S360, which is the people at Corp that validate that our infrastructure is secure, even though it's a test subscription and there's nothing that can be compromised on there.
It's still important to always ensure that there's policies that are standard, and
Exactly.
if one of us doesn't do something nuts like put, I don't know, certain kinds of keys in the public that someone else can get access to and then start using like what was thought to be just a demo ends up being a little bit more than a demo when a key pair gets put out into the wild that or some sort of secret that people were just not supposed to get their hands on.
Yeah, and if you've ever I've done some searches on the internet, and there are some repositories of they go through and they skim all of GitHub to look for passwords and secrets, because so many people will put their especially like an ARM template. You create an ARM template to deploy an entire infrastructure, and that infrastructure has some gateways, so it has keys, it has some VMs, so it has password, admin passwords, and they put those into their ARM template because it's easy. And then you just post it and you say, oh, I'll change it later. is typically what you hear. Yeah, and let me just see if it works, and I'll change it later.
Yeah, and then that later becomes sort of technical debt, and then that technical debt ends up completely coming to bite you in the butt if it ends up being something where I don't know, maybe it ends up being a key that gets some sort of compromised and ends up just blowing up a potential application. I think that's or a server or a system, whatever you want to call it. It just seems very, very troubling to think that that's a real potential that people don't always think about when they build things, and they'll put them in the wild. They'll just assume it's okay, and then when they find out it's not okay, it's rough. And I've seen it in the real world, and I think as operations people, which we could talk a little bit about that coming up in a sec. I love to do my segues. That's what I do. As operations people, we end up taking the other side of this a lot, where we get in the situation where someone does that, and we as the operations people start seeing a server that all of a sudden goes from normally running at maybe 15%, starts running at 200% for some reason, and you don't know why. And the reason why is, geez, why was this left out in the public? Why are there 1,000 connections coming from this? Or
why is it mining cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the JavaScript world, they learn that pretty hard with NPM modules. But what are you gonna do? I mean, these are the things that we kind of deal with when you're building stuff in the cloud or anywhere. If you don't secure your stuff, you're going to run into a problem. So I kind of want to show an example of that in a second. But first, I want to talk a little bit about you, Pierre.
Yeah. What about me?
So
what have you heard?
So, we have all been kind of sidelined from a thing that we do all the time as cloud advocates, where we were always on the road. We were talking to people, meeting people, getting them to understand the things that we think are really important about the technology that we advocate for. And so it's been different for me not being on the road anymore. And I'm curious, you've been off the road now for what is about as long as I have. How's that been for you?
Last time I was at an airport was end of February.
Me too. Copenhagen.
So, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars that are in credit with the airlines. I'll probably never see that money again. But yeah, and the one piece that I miss the most is, just like you, because we're a cloud advocate, and part of our job is or a big chunk of our job is to bring back our audience's experience and challenges with our products and technologies to the product group to say, this is not really working as designed, or the documentation is bad or missing some parts, or really people are using it for the wrong reasons or the wrong goals. But now that we're having a hard time getting in front and with people, and doing it virtually is different because it doesn't lend well to this kind of like coffee conversation where you're sitting at a coffee shop or you're sitting at a bar after the conference, or even sitting in the community area at the conference and say, oh, so what do you do? What are you working on? Oh, I'm working on this and this is, and all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I understand that challenge. And let me tell you a little story of how somebody else that I know addressed it. And then that kind of goes in circle. Plus this for you and I as advocates is like fodder for blog and content, because it's real life. I really try hard not to write about Contoso or about Tailwind Trader, not because it's because working in a lab or in a very test environment, somehow it always works, but it's sometimes not representative of real life. And I miss those stories from our audience I'll completely admit, sometimes I will steal those stories, change the name to protect the innocent, and then say, hey, Bob is having this issue at his company X, and here's how the problem he's having, and here's how I think a solution to that problem. And I can write about it, and it makes a story, and it's it's something that people can relate to. But when it's like Toso is deploying Key Vault in their environment, it's kind of
Yeah,
less, it's less personal, it's less engaging, and so I miss that part the most.
I understand. Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we're lucky enough to kind of do this, is that we're able to kind of try to replicate the idea of presenting problems, explaining how there are solutions, and seeing if people understand it.
Yep.
And the feedback may be different than the feedback we've been used to, but I think that feedback that we get in general is useful no matter how you get it, to be able to make sure that what you're producing is useful. So people in the chat saying something, or getting a tweet back or something like that, it's always helpful to hear from people that want to help be part of it.
Yeah.
And so,
And can I make a shameless plug here? Because of that, and I'm inviting you as well, because of that lack of engagement, our team spun up a Discord server.
okay.
It's aka.ms/IT talk in one word dash Discord. That's a IT
Ops.
IT ops talk in one word dash Discord.
Cool. Yes.
We've got now, we really haven't done a lot of promotion to it, and we're at about 150 150 different people that are on it. And we're approaching critical mass where we don't really have to prime the conversations anymore. The conversation starts by themselves, and we're lucky enough to be able to. So myself, Rick Claus, Anthony Bartolo, Pumala, Sarah Lean, everyone.
A bunch of people that have been on here before, so it sounds like a good crew.
Yeah.
To be real.
So every day we go in maybe an hour or two and just kind of read and say, hey, oh, you were looking for this. Well, there's a doc article here, but there's also a learn module here that'll take you through it so you can try it in a sandbox. Oh, okay. I haven't seen about that. Or a lot of people, okay, I'm preparing for AZ 104. Where should I go? And then Thomas says, oh, here's a lump of resources. Plus, community members asking each other, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? So we've got even some people from the product groups, like John Flores, who's done the identity group, Joey Snow, which is the PM for identity on the partner side. They're participating, and it's growing, but so far it's growing organically.
Well, that's good.
So
That's great to hear.
if you want to go on there, and if you want to invite your friends, and we can make a channel for DevOps or for operations, it's for the community, by the community.
Well, they're right down below us. You can see that URL here, so go check that out. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about Azure Key Vault, and I think it's a really cool kind of subject to talk about, because it's security is paramount at all times to our applications and what we build. And so I wanted to kind of just get started with a bad example, okay? I think a bad example for me is always a cool thing to show. And
There are a few.
We're going to go into this application I have here. It's called MERNCRUD, and it's literally a mean Ember React, and I know it's Mongo, Ember, React, and Node application. I'm just doing it here. I guess I can bring it up in code. So in the Cloud Shell, which is my favorite thing, you can have this little mini version of Visual Studio Code, and you can kind of look at the application, and we can get an idea of what we're playing with just here. You'll see it's just a static application, and it's got a configured a database here. Now, this is the problem, right? This is the problem that we're going to kind of try to solve today. You're going to do it in a way that's a little different than with a different application, but I want to just talk about this as a common problem, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So in modern application development, we look at building applications that are responsive and dynamic, and they'll have things that are stored in databases. And so databases as a service is a very, very popular thing. And at Microsoft, the big one that we like to talk to people about are Azure Cosmos DB, and of course our SQL service. But Azure Cosmos DB is a really great one because it gives you all this ability to create multi-model databases using all these different types of APIs. In their documents, they're really simple for you to use. You can store anything that you want in a key and value, and then use all these different types of or a rich document, and you can basically store what you want and then call it from the database from your application. But so here's the problem, though. We can look at this. Pierre, why is this the big problem here?
Well, your connection string actually has credentials in it.
So that's the whole big thing that we really want to talk about. Why Key Vault is just so important. Because if your connection string has your username and your password out in the open and non-encrypted, it's ripe to be, taken in some sort of like simple intrusion. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's not so much, of course, if you're vulnerable for that information to be taken and is one thing. But I'll tell you a story that's just before I moved over to the advocacy team. Sure. I was with the partner group within Microsoft, and I was working with one of our partners in Canada that run a service to medical clinics.
Okay.
For management of their appointments, reminders, lab, like all of that communication end of it. So all of the communication for health clinics, chiro clinics, all kinds of health clinics, dentists, and so on. They had a process where every night and that service was in the cloud, but the clinics were not necessarily in the cloud. Some were in and some were on-prem. Every night at midnight, the service would go and connect to all of these clinics and upload and exchange like the updated calendar information that had customer info, file numbers, all kinds of different information that is PII. And it would update that for about 1,000-ish clinics. So we were remapping some of their older application to something that was a bit more modern in terms of functions and serverless versus the old VB6 application that they had running on a box.
Oh, Virtual Basic 6, gotcha.
Yeah. So at one point, one of the CISO came in and we were talking, and then I asked them, I said, you, because of your business, have to be compliant with EPA and ITEC and all of the other health regulation. He goes, yeah. I said, you realize that right now you would fail the audit within about 15 minutes. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, your application, the way it's written, has the connection string to all of those clinics in your config file. And he's like, well, it's not exposed. It's on the config file. So, well, any decent hacker will take about 3 minutes to get to it. And so they panicked. Good reaction. And then we talked to their developers and the developer that was working with me. And we created a key vault, imported all of those connection strings as secrets, and then in code. So now they have a loop where it goes, okay, so clinic number 1 grabs the secret, connects, does what it needs to do, dumps the secret. Clinic number 2, and now it's never written down anywhere. It's always in memory and flushed, and it is secure. It took us like less than an hour to get that done. And now they are compliant. Now they are secure, and they're a lot more efficient because they can run it in parallel on multiple functions or multiple processes, as opposed to having one process that does one at a time. So it took them hours to do. Now they do in minutes.
It sounds like one of the big things that you did is right here, and one of the big answers of why people use Key Vault. It's to centralize application secrets and to securely store those secrets and keys. And I think that this is the other big thing, this monitor access and use. And so I think that auditing needs to be a big part of this kind of introduction that we need to give to people, because it's not just as important to know that your keys are cryptographically secure, but to know how often they're used. And then if you start seeing them being used in a way that you're not really sure, you see connections coming from a server that you're not supposed to see them from, you're actually getting a great way to troubleshoot problematic configuration drift. Because let's say you have a configuration drift where your database is being connected to through the same string, and that server is not supposed to be making that connection. We can see from the logs that that's going on and make a determination from this auditing. We need to kind of stop that machine from doing that. And so I think that that's a really cool part of this. And then this simplified administration, it speaks for itself. The fact that you can do all this work, and some of the work I'll just show people the basics here in the portal. I'm pretty sure, Pierre, you got a more interesting thing than just the portal to show me at some point, right?
Well, yeah, I've got some stuff that I've prepared, or things that I'm doing now. Awesome. In terms of what I'm using, and one of the things, and I can show it to you now if you want.
Oh, let me just go through this. We'll get there in a sec. I just want to finish off our big intro to what you're going to kind of help us go through. So the simplified administration of application secrets. So not only just when you're creating the vault, but when you're adding new secrets and you're replicating the secrets to different regions and making sure they're highly available. So there's ways to do this through the portal. There's ways to do this through the CLI. You can use PowerShell, whatever it is you want. It's made to make it simple for administrators to know how to work with all these secrets and keep them in an organized fashion that it makes sense for them and the people that are going to be accessing them.
Yeah, but the two big things that you mentioned, and of course, I almost not mention the monitoring and the audit, and because that should be part of your normal operation of everything. If you're not monitoring your entire environment, you never know when something's bad. In terms of compliance, your audits are super important, because if something does happen and they say, who accessed that key, that connection string, that secret at that time when we discovered the breach, and you can't show it, then you'll be, you can't even like find a culprit, so the company takes responsibility, which they should anyway. But protection and centralization, and for people that are a small organization, just the centralization part. I don't know about you, but how many machines do you run with?
I just keep. What do you mean run? When I'm out and about in my world?
I've got like right now I'm on my tower. Just
how many computers I have at home? I thought you meant when I'm physically running. I just
no.
At home, I'll be real. I just have them. All I run at home is my MacBook Pro. That's it.
Okay.
It's all I really have needed. And the thing I love about working with Azure is most of the time I can have a development environment anywhere based on just what Azure's got built into it. As far as I can just go here, head over to Cloud Shell if I need something, and then if I wanted to, I can just also go to Code Spaces in GitHub. So I have this really what I think is a mature developer environment that doesn't even need me to have anything special as far as a local computer anymore. It's just not necessary.
No, but I'm more on the operation side than on the dev side.
Sure.
And so right now I'm working on a tower because the COVID time and the human malware has forced us to turn our offices into studios, and my Surface Book and my Surface laptop weren't quite beefy enough to support streaming and encoding and doing all of that stuff.
That's why I got this nice, pretty little Mac I got now.
Yeah. So I've got my tower, which is what I work on when I'm sitting at my desk. Like I mentioned, I got my Surface Book and a Surface laptop. But often when I was outside of advocacy and I was actually doing work for corporations, you could be for Christmas, you're at your in-laws or something, and all of a sudden your phone goes off because a service has gone down. Well, you didn't bring your machine with you because it's freaking Christmas. So you say, can I borrow your computer? And you log on. But the certificate to access that VM is stored on my machine at home. Mm-hmm. So now having Key Vault and centralization, like for myself, in my Key Vault, I have my own Key Vault.
You just go to the portal, right?
I just go to the portal and I go to my secret.
Well, let me show everybody how to create a Key Vault. What do you say?
Sure.
So I'm going to just go through that real quick, and then I want you to show me how to start working with it and how to put things into it, how to access. I'm really interested in that. But let's go from the first. Let's take step one, and step one begins with creating a Key Vault. So I just made it a little bigger. So if you just go here you can just search Key Vaults. I went to Key Vault, and if you hear my dog in the background, please forgive Meadow. I think somebody's installing my new washing machine, and she's having a good time.
Oh, no worries. I've got two of them, and I can hear them running upstairs, but hopefully the door's closed so they won't run in.
So what we're going to get started with is just creating a Key Vault. We're going to just do something that you can do right from the portal, nothing too crazy. So like we've talked about, it's a Key Vault is the place that we're going to keep our secrets, our certificates, our keys. And then what we can do is use different services in Azure, and that's one of the big things that I wanted to catch here is that it integrates with other Azure services. So Azure encryption for our disks, if we wanted to use our own produced key. Let's say we are an enterprise organization, and based on our rules and our compliance, we need to use our own certificates, our own keys. We can use that and store those keys in Key Vault so that Azure Disk Encryption can do that server-side encryption with a key that you manage. And that's huge. And you can see it's always encrypted, it's transparent, and it works also with Azure App Service. That's big because we can pass API keys. So that database connection that we saw before, instead of having that database connection done in the clear and over the wire, it'll be encrypted and then that encryption will work with App Service to recognize it and decrypt it and make it available so that the database connection can happen. So that's a quick reason why these three services being part, or I should say these two services being part, is so important. Mm-hmm. So let's create one. So we get started with our subscription, our resource group, and then we'll just give it a Key Vault name, just an identifier. And so I'm going to just call it AFB key. It's already used, so it's got to be a unique identifier. So we'll just do.
Yeah, because it's part of a URI, so it has to be unique.
Okay, so we'll call this AFB key vault. There we go. I think we got that. Oh, wow, somebody's got that one too. So I'm gonna have to find out who they are and tell them they're stealing my names.
Or you've already created it in the test earlier.
I think so. I don't think I remember that. So we get these different pricing tiers, and it's standard and premium. I don't think we're going to have to go too much on what these are.
I think you need to identify because if you want to have the hardware secured keys or keys that are backed by hardware security modules, which is what the HSM are.
So like 2FAs.
2FAs or hardware encoded keys.
Oh, so like what are those keys?
So high assurance keys. Like I used to do, like, I hate to say it, but like over a decade ago, when company would create their certificates for high security, there would be a ceremony with the auditors present.
So like YubiKeys. So these are the kind of things we're talking about. So using these like certificate in the YubiKey and then that being passed as we use those. So I understand completely. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for correcting me that we didn't need to talk about that.
Yeah. So if you're going to be high security or high, I'm having a brain fart here and I can't remember the word. But if you need to have those hardware backed keys, you
Sure.
need to go into the premium.
Makes sense. All right.
But it's not
today
everyone.
Yeah, we're just gonna use standard. And so now we have a soft delete. I guess we can have purge protection. So if someone accidentally deletes a key, we can always retrieve it. We've got our access policy. So these are the different services that can use our keys. So if we want to use a key for passing a specific, say we have a variable that says I want to connect to something like a chef server, and you need to pass a certificate to connect to the chef server when you're booting up, or some sort of like some registration.
Yep.
Or this is a place that you want to make sure you can pass secrets without them being decrypted in the wire, or I should say unencrypted on the wire and them getting passed and read on the network somehow, and we don't want that. Azure Resource Manager template deployment, huge, because like Pierre was saying before, if we do things in ARM templates and we want to pass something like passwords as we set up some sort of application, we can have it in the ARM template encrypted already. It'll pass that and make sure that it has the right username, password, and it's done without having to put anything over the wire. That's what we're going for here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Disk encryption, we talked about it before, to be able to manage our own keys that the certificates are using for our server-side encryption for our disks. So this is the basic encryption that all of these shared hard drives that we've talked about that you get when you set up something on Azure. If you want Azure to manage that server-side encryption key, that's a default. It just does. But if you have some sort of corporate policy that requires you to manage your own, you can do that through this service.
Yep.
So we'll go to networking. And let's take a look. Now we can pick what networks we want to actually be able to connect from. And I think this is another big part of this, because we can secure the networks, we can make them private, we can do what we want. We can make them as open or as closed as we want here. And I think that's useful.
So if you're running a web app, let's say that's going to require access to your secret, and the secret being a connection string, for example, and that web app as a service endpoint to a virtual network, then you can have your key vault also have a private endpoint to that same virtual network, so that all the traffic between your web app requesting that secret is going to be routed internally through that virtual network, which you control, to the key vault and never actually hit the internet. So from the internet itself, even though it's a URI, like if I'm looking at one of my keys right now, it's got a URI wired connect -key vault -vault .vault.azure.net /keys, and then the thumbprint of my key.
So let's take a look at our ARM template that's going to be generated to go ahead and get us started. So we went ahead, all the basic information that we put in our access policy, and then decided how we want to connect to it, and we'll just go ahead and click create. And so this will just take a little bit. We'll have our new key vault, and we'll be able to start working. And I believe you said it'll be a fully qualified domain name that we'll be able to have as a URI, so that different services that need to connect to it will be able to. Am I right?
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter where your service is running. You could be running a service on-prem that requires a certificate for encryption of your database, for example.
And there it is, SSL and everything.
Yeah. And then you can actually connect or have programmatically on-prem go and get that certificate and encrypt your on-prem database, but they are managed in the cloud.
So now I have this ability to go here and I have my keys and my secrets. So
Yep.
I can generate or import a new secret here. So if I go here to generate and import, I can do, say, a manual one, like a password, correct?
Yes.
That's what I would. So here, I'll just type in J is my. Let's say this is my password for a bunch of servers that I'm using, and then I'll enter the secret. And let's say the secret. I'll just come up here with a random series of. I know, very secure password, everybody. And so I'll just pop it in here. The content type. I don't think I need something there. I guess that's just kind of a tag.
It's for informational, because once it's in the system, it's kind of hard to differentiate whether or not that is a password, like an admin password to get into the system, or is it a password to decrypt a specific file. Like you get, it's just an information to give a bit more info to other people that are looking at your key vault.
So after I've created my new secret here, can I turn this secret into a key? Is that the way this works?
No, no. Keys are generated, secrets are just entered or imported, of course. But like for a secret, for example, can be pretty much anything. Okay. It can be a password. It could be your connection string. It could be anything that is like a long string of characters or something. Like, for example, for internal systems, like for Learn TV, I'm part of the team that manages the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So we have a few VMs that are running. We want to make sure that these are secure. So we've got a 32 character alphanumeric password to log into the actual VMs that run the backend. Well, I'm not going to remember 32 characters, and I don't think anybody else on our team is going to remember that. And we don't want them to be copied in a text file somewhere. So we've put them in there. So, and because we all have access to that, and we all have the rights to actually retrieve those secrets, we can't give anybody else access, but we have the rights to retrieve the secrets when we need to get access to that machine through a Bastion server, because we don't expose those machines to the internet. And we just go there and say, okay, connect from, and then we go to the Azure Key Vault and basically copy that string. It's never written down. It's always in memory. And once you're done, but we can share it. For my own machines and my own the deployment, I use a password manager personally, but I do use the password manager generator to generate complex password that are very long, that I will just cut and copy into my secrets. In terms of the certificates,
do you want to show us something?
Sure.
I know you said you have a little example, and we got about 20 minutes left, so I'd love to see some stuff, so you give me some like practical examples, because I've just shown how I would operationally set it up, but to see like how you would make I just need you to make your your resolution bigger. I can't see nothing. I think that's better.
That's better. So, yeah, for example,
I'm gonna focus on there while we're talking. All right.
Okay.
Because just so everybody can see.
Yeah. So once we're let's say you're creating a virtual machine. I'm creating a VM. It's a Linux VM, and then I say, okay, I'm going to use a public key because it's a lot more. It's a lot better than a password. But then instead of generating a new pair, I'm saying I'm going to get one that's stored in Azure, and then I go and get my key. So now the public key that is deployed on that machine is going to be the same. So if I deploy 100 of those machines or 1,000 of these machines, I don't have to worry about having cut and pasting that public key into each of them. Number one, I'm not going to go through the whole setup, but I just wanted to show you that the keys now are integrated and we can get them. That's just for connecting to a VM or creating a VM.
Okay.
I can create also a disk encryption set, which the way I do it is mostly through command line. And let me see if I can. Let's view layout. Remember the.
What are you trying to bring up?
I'm just trying to make it a little bit bigger.
You can just use like plus, like shift plus or command plus, the same way you would do it on like you gotta have, yeah, you gotta be focused out, but it should, yep, there you go.
Oh, there we go. And
Just
I
like your
will
browser.
close there, just like the browser.
Yep.
So I use corporations that want to encrypt, and this is something that I've gotten since the first day we came up with managed disks or any kind of disk or disk encryption. Where, okay, can I use my own certificates? Well, at the beginning, I was like, no, we're managing the certificates for you. Well, that's just not good enough for our compliance. So now we can actually create. So I've got a key that I put into my key vault. And I created that's a little too small. I can't see what I need. Oh, there we go. I have a key here called test2, which is a key that I've actually generated. And I've got the URI that we were talking about earlier. So I can go here and say my key is sitting here in my key vault. And I'm going to create a disk encryption set with that key. So if I select all of that and run in my terminal, run selected script. And by the way, you say that you love Azure Shell.
It's my favorite thing about the portal, to be real. Like, the portal's great and everything, but I love that the Cloud Shell's in the portal, and then the Cloud Shell can be just literally almost anywhere, it seems. At least that's the way it feels to me.
So this screen that you're seeing right now, I don't know if you see in the left-hand corner where my...
Yeah, I see. You're using a container.
I'm using a container, which is an open-sourced version from the product group of the Azure Shell, but I'm running it locally in Docker Desktop, and I'm connecting my VS Code, so I've got full access to VS Code with all of the extensions, and my terminal is actually running in Azure Shell, but running locally. So, all right, so I created my my encryption set. So if I go back here, I've got my encryption set. Where's the new one? Maybe I should just refresh. So I've got my new encryption set. Now to associate it with an image, I need to actually grant permission, because even my account by default doesn't have permission to use that key yet.
Gotcha.
So now if I grant access, so I'm granting permissions so that I can use that key to encrypt data, is think of the risk of letting somebody who's not authorized encrypt your data with a key that they control.
That then they could essentially know your username and password, not have to concern yourself with her. It geeks out if they wanted to. It doesn't matter.
Not only that,
their option.
They could literally lock you out of your own data.
Not an ideal situation.
No,
not at all.
So now I have a disk. I can just go to encryption. Okay, that disk. I think I've already done it on that disk. So let's say, where's my Ubuntu disk? Let's create a new one. Beta 2. Platform managed disk. I can say, nope, I will use my new encryption set. Save. And now I'm creating a disk that's going to be encrypted by a certificate or a key that I control. So Microsoft or any other entity is not in control of the key that's... So if I ever take that VHD and download it, I still have the key. I'm not dependent on the platform to encrypt it.
And that's really important, because that allows you also to scale out easier. so you don't have to worry about being able to distribute that key amongst a number of different machines or whatever the way you need it. The centralized.
Yes. And another way that I use Key Vault, if I look at my, I'm just looking at my a test repo that I have here where I have a ARM template that deploys virtual networks. Well, for sake of arguments,
can you make it a little bigger? Just one, so it's a little small. One more. Rad. Cool.
Well, it's really not about the ARM template at this point. But if I go to my workflow, I do have a workflow that's called main, which is basically GitHub action. And in it, so I log into Azure using a service principal, so I never have to pass a password, and the secret is stored in my settings for here, so it can't be extracted. I can remove it or update it, but I can't go and harvest it. In my code, my workflow, and this is where it becomes interesting, is this part here. And I'm going to make it a little bigger again. There is an action called get key vault secret. That is a published action on the marketplace, the GitHub marketplace. Excuse me. Where I will give it my my key vault and ask it what my secret is, and of course, that service principals must have specific access to that key vault. So if I go back to my key vault here, and under access control, under role assignment, I'm going to have, and this is the one I'm using. I have given that service principal access to that key vault.
Very, very useful.
And so,
because then we're using roles and
exactly
access policies, and now more of that thing that we've been talking about, centralization. It's not enough to be able to just keep it stored somewhere. You need to be able to access it and be able to make it simple.
Yeah, and don't do what I just did for my GitHub action exercise because this is a demo environment, and I set that up about half an hour ago, where I gave it all of the permissions. Really, if I was being in production, and that comes back to that technical debt, actually, but it's both, that we talked about at the beginning. Instead of select all, I should have said, okay, this one can only get the key. It can list and get the key, but it can't update, create, import, delete, blah, 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 blah. And I would save that. So now that my GitHub action can only view the key, list them, and extract them. Well, if I go back here, so if it runs, so if I change that, runs on name secret 2, and I will commit this change, and as soon as that change is committed, it's actually going to start to run. But the last time it ran, if I look at get secret key, and of course there is these are errors, but they're not really errors, as some of my code was written before a deprecation of a command that really doesn't affect it right now. But now I can actually get from my Wired Canuck key vault the secret that I've put in, and then it stores it into a variable that can be now passed on as a parameter to an ARM template in terms of like creating the password for a VM, creating the key for access to a gateway. It's all be done in there. And so this is in GitHub, and it's a marketplace add-on that you can use. but you can do the exact same thing, whether or not it's in AZ update, not AZ update, AZ CLI or PowerShell.
You can plug after.
That was a slip. I really didn't mean to plug that. But I could run this in my terminal, and it'll go and get me my secret. So this is just one of those secret that I've generated with my password generator and just stored in there. But I could, I'll give you a scenario that I know needs to happen in a lot of organization. I know that we're really working towards a passwordless society, because password are in. If you look under a keyboard, and you'll find a sticky note somewhere, and there's a password on it. But passwords are bad because they're easily accessible most of the time, a lot of the time. But now you can have a function that runs on a schedule that uses service principal to generate a new password, store it in Key Vault, and then have another process that will do a listing of all of your servers, pick all of the Windows servers, for example, and do a remote command to change the administrative password to the new created password that is stored in Key Vault. So you don't have to worry about somebody that remembers, somebody that got fired that remembers the password or had it written down. You could do the same for Linux VM with certificates, where you could generate a new certificate and send it. And when we're looking at certificates, earlier when I created my virtual machine with the certificate, when it finishes, I have open ports to the internet, and our validation tells me that I'm not allowed to do that. So let's go back to basic and say no ports allowed, review and create, because it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to access it. And when I create it, it will generate in some cases, it'll generate the certificate, and I just remembered that this one I did not. But I'll show you this one where it did. Test Ubuntu. And you can actually get the, and for some reason I can't find it right now, but you can actually get the certificate or the, not the certificate, but the public key. Sorry. You can get the public key from the portal that's installed on that machine.
Okay.
So it generates it for you, but it also allows you to download it. So if I look locally.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't realize you're still going. My bad.
No worry. If I go locally, now I've downloaded that test.ubuntu and that key in a PEM format, which I can now use to SSH into that machine should I have the SSH port open. But I can also take that PEM, and it's all kind of like circle here, where if I go back to this, to my Key Vault, and now I have that certificate imported in my Key Vault, so that if I'm ever at my in-laws over Christmas and I get a phone call and I need to connect to it, I can go here and download it into a PEM format or PFX format, and then remote into the machines that I need to remote. Centralization, protection. It's all audited. It's all secured. It's all there for you to use. Whether or not you're deploying automatically through GitHub, whether or not you're deploying or building automatically through PowerShell, Azure CLI, building application that requires access to external systems, where you need certificates or connection strings or password or anything that you want to keep secure, you can store in Azure Key Vault.
Very cool. Well, hey, I think it's time to kind of wrap. What do you think?
Has it been an hour already? I could
Yeah,
talk about this stuff all day.
you know, and that's the great thing about doing these things is that we can kind of have an hour to get that all out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Getting it all out, it's the best thing we can do in this situation is talk about as much as we can and hope everybody kind of learns from the conversation. Because I always feel like we try to take a walk. You know what I mean? We take a walk on this and we start off with the bare minimum and we hope by the end we learn a little bit more and we get these fundamentals that we talk about each time just a little bit more down.
Yep.
And so, Pierre, what should people do to find more information about Pierre?
Okay, about me. I can be reached at Wired Canuck on the Twitters, as it shows right here.
Like that.
Right there. I am blogging on itopstalk.com. You can have a discussion with me on the Discord. If you look on this side, I don't know which side I'm on, but the aka.ms for itopstalk-discord server.
Thanks for watching.
Hey,
Want to just say, you know, we're getting thank yous.
that's
in the
great.
chat.
And if it's in, if they want to have a conversation with us, come to the Discord and at me there, and you can. I will respond, or my blog itopstalk.com.
Very, very cool. There's the Discord again. You know, I'm really looking forward to hearing what else is coming out of the IT Ops blog. I have had a few contributions there, and I know it's always really a great place for people to get some really great, whether it's hybrid cloud, the things that are still on-prem that are Microsoft technologies, or just about anything. Developers, there's so much stuff there, and I really think if you're gonna want to dig a little bit deep more into what Pierre and that crew is doing, I really, really recommend it. I know Anthony, who was on recently, he's another big part of that, does a great job. So Pierre, I want to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's never really goodbye. It's just see you later.
Yeah, maybe our paths will cross again somewhere in the somewhere where we can leave our homes. Whenever that is, we'll see if we can get there. All right.
It's been a long time since I've been to New York, so I'm waiting
Looking forward
for
to
the
having you back. Take care, Pierre.
All right, see you guys.
Well, that's about it for this week. It's been really cool to be able to have another conversation about another really cool technology that you can use on Azure. As always, you know how to get in touch. You can reach out on Twitter. It's at @JDestro, at AzureFunBytes. Please subscribe, share, do all those things that you're supposed to do on the internet that make people happy when you watch their stuff, all right? Until then, have the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next time, and good luck.